Man, it looks great to see all the names on the attendee list. Lots of familiar faces or familiar names, and some not so familiar. But we look forward to driving customer success with you, alongside you, over the next coming weeks, upcoming months, and years. And so, thank you for committing the time today to hear our story. And it's one that's near and dear to my heart, because I feel like it's been a 5-year journey to evolve into what we're calling the analytics era. And having the opportunity here at ACDI over the last 19 years to drive business, to create opportunities, and to see all of that, all the work with our partners, with our suppliers, with our OEM partners around the globe, to see that culminate into the analytics era and where we are today is kind of exciting for me, and I hope it's exciting for you. One of the things I wanted to get across before I turn it over to Nick is the fact that for 19 years I've run our business in a way that is probably more traditional. But as I started, as we all started seeing and hearing about data science and analytics and what it's doing to professional sports, collegiate sports, what it's doing around the world and what you see on TV, it's kind of like, how come we can't inject that into our business? And so approximately 3 to 4 years ago, we said, let's do it. What can we do to make our business look different? How can we manage it? What insights would provide value to us? And then in turn, how can we take those insights and the data and pass it back through the channel? And, believe it or not, I can come in today and look at my business in a new light. And actually, I can do it every day through the lens of what we're calling Storyboard. And Storyboard is not a product that you compare feature to feature or feature for feature. It's a product that we feel like should inspire creativity, should create curiosity, and that also the outcomes that you can base on facts and not opinion. And that's where we want to take analytics and the accessibility of the tool to you guys that are on the call, as well as to all the others that we're going to come in contact with over the next up and coming months. So that's why I'm excited. And the team that we have to develop this product alongside our engineers and scientists have done a phenomenal job. And so with that, as we launch Storyboard, guys, Storyboard is a product that we feel offers boundless opportunities for you, your clients, as well as for everyone that comes in contact with it. And we want to offer it in a seamless manner to you. So hopefully I did it. It's as far as the worth of the product, it's there. The introduction with Nick, I want to turn it over to him as he goes into Storyboard for you. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks, Josh, and welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here. As Josh mentioned, my name is Nick Christou. I'm the Director of Analytics at ACDI. So what I want to start everybody with is I want you to think about that last great book that you read or Audible that you listened to, and think about that one that really stuck with you. What was it about that book that really caught your attention? Well, the reality is there was probably a number of chapters in it, and it flowed really well from chapter to chapter. There were highs, there were lows, there were times when you didn't think the hero was going to survive, but at the end of the day, you learned something new, whether it was a business book and you were taught something, or it was a fiction book and you had a different perspective on how you interact with your kids or your loved ones. It did something to capture you, and it did it in an incredibly effective way. So if we go to the next slide, the way that we look at Storyboard is that this is your business's own personal hero journey that you're writing with data. So if we shift over to the next slide, the reality is that most stories don't just have one single plot line going on. There's tons of layers. There's different components. There's different subplots. Being able to pull all of those together in a really effective way. Go ahead and kick back one slide, Rich. Being able to pull all of those together in a really effective way is absolutely critical to telling an impeccable story. Well, business is no different. The reality is with the rise of data and the rise of technology, we have more applications we use today than we ever have before. And getting data out of all of these different systems into one centralized place to tell that story is incredibly difficult. What Storyboard is here to do is break down that barrier and allow you to pull all of that data into one place so that you can have a holistic view of the business. So if we shift over to the next slide, I want you to think about this and I want you to start writing your own story. What are those most important KPIs in your organization that you either track or you would really like to start tracking in a consistent way that you know is going to have a significant impact on your business? It's probably not a silver bullet, right? Other than sell more, spend less, it's not a silver bullet of KPIs that we want to track. It's finance, it's sales, it's marketing, it's operations, it's product and IT. There's so many different components to the business that we need to track. And the reality is you're only going to manage what you can measure. So imagine being able to bring all of that into a centralized place so that you can run your business more effectively. So if we kick over to the next slide, this is it. I absolutely love this visualization, but being able to bring all of these different disparate data sources consistently, touchlessly, so a human being doesn't need to intervene, and transforming that into actionable analytics is absolutely what we're all about. So if we shift to the next slide, here's my favorite part of Storyboard. There isn't a one-size-fits-all story. There is no one-size-fits-all business. And if we go back one slide, Storyboard's for everyone. If you have a business and you have data, Storyboard's a great opportunity for you to use data to make data-driven decisions to help improve your business, to either generate more revenue, increase profitability, increase efficiency, customer retention, you name it. The floor is yours to write your own story. So now if we kick over to the next slide, here's some great examples of some areas of opportunity that we're able to help. In healthcare, higher education, manufacturing, e-commerce, finance, real estate, the stories go on and on and on about all of the different industries that can be significantly impacted in a positive way by using data to help them make decisions on a daily basis. So what I want to do now is I actually want to dive into a specific example and something that we were actually able to help out with. So we had an accounting firm that had about 50 employees. And the reality is in the accounting space, the legal space, the contracting architecture space, there's a delicate balance between having enough people that can deliver on services for you so that you can deliver really great service to your clients, but also staying on the right side of profitable, because if you have too many employees, obviously it's a service-based business. You're not going to be able to pay all of your bills if you don't have the right invoices coming in. So we met with this CPA firm, and one of their challenges is they didn't have a very good pulse on the business. Were our contracts negotiated properly? Are our contracts old, right? Did we set somebody up on a $300 a month contract and it's been a year and a half later and they really should be paying us $1,000 a month based on the number of hours that they're utilizing from us? So they had a really big challenge here. And if we go to the next slide, we'll actually hit home on what some of the challenges were. So the first one is do we have enough of the right data to be able to see how many hours we're working on projects, how much those contracts are negotiated for? Do those customers pay us on time, which I know every single person on this call has probably experienced, and so on and so forth. Here was the biggest challenge of this problem is to be able to go do the analysis, to gather that information, bring it into a centralized place. First and foremost, there was a couple pieces of technology. There was a timekeeping system, there was a financial system, there was a CRM, there was a few different places that this data lived. So when the executive team decided that they wanted to make this, to do this analysis, it was a 2.5-day juggernaut of just financial gymnastics. And they were so exhausted by the end of that process that they decided not to do it for 6 more months. And they said, you know what, it just took too long. We'll do this again in 6 months, and hopefully we don't miss the mark in the next 6 months. Well, I think everybody on this phone can imagine if that 6-month period of downtime was somewhere around February 1st, 2020 and June 1st of 2020, that's probably not the period of your business's life that you want to put the pause on. Am I billing enough? Am I managing my resources properly? Because the impact could have been incredibly significant. So what Storyboard was actually able to do, if we go to the next slide, is we were able to automate this entire process and take it from a 6-month, 2-day exhaustive process for an entire executive team to be able to work through, and turned it into a daily update with proactive alerts and monitoring so that this organization could see day by day what customers were on the books. Were they paying enough? Are our employees spending the right amount of time on the right things so that they're actually effective with their time? Or do we have areas of opportunity that we can coach our employees to actually be more effective? So if we go to the next slide, think about what that can do for your business. It's more than just a few pieces of technology and a couple spreadsheets that we're putting together on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. Think about the amount of time that you guys, that all of us, myself included, put into these manual processes to try and get data to help us figure out our problems. And think about how sometimes that might be so exhausting that instead of doing the hard work on a consistent, repeatable basis to drive incremental successes, we push these things off 6, 8, 12, 9 months. And before you know it, we're making all of our decisions by gut feel instead of data-driven decisions. So that being said, on the next slide, I want to kick it over to Rich. But Mark, I think we may or may not have a couple questions that already came through.
No, we do actually. Yeah, a lot of us question, what does analytics do for us every day? And there's the whole talk of big data and little data. The question that came in from Matt Bennett, looks like on the chat, is how does statistics help us with our fantasy football that's coming up this weekend and in our everyday life versus just what's going on in our business?
So I love that question. A quick little backstory. So Storyboard was actually my grad school brainchild. And when we were in our statistics semester, the way that we practiced a lot of our predictive modeling was predicting football scores. So that being said, I 100% think that it can impact your fantasy football success or any sports success this weekend. But that being said, one of the things that I absolutely love about using statistics, right? And I don't want to call it statistics as just one bucket because there's a number of components to this. There's decision sciences, which is helping you make more effective decisions. There is data engineering, which is getting data from point A to point B in a consistent, clean, and repeatable manner, and secure, right? Security is really at the hub of that. And then the last part of that is analysis that leads into data visualization, right? So there's kind of a lot of really big moving parts going on here. So kind of back to that silver bullet concept, there really is no one silver bullet. If I sit down and say, I'm going to make a really good statistical analysis and I'm going to bet on one football team this weekend in fantasy football and I'm going to win the season, it really doesn't work that way. It's consistent, repeatable action week over week in a predictive nature. And what we're trying to do is eliminate uncertainty, right? Or get as much uncertainty out of the equation as possible. At the end of the day, if we were making certain decisions, we wouldn't be having this webinar right now because the decisions would already be made. They're incredibly easy. What we're looking to do is make decisions under uncertainty in a repeatable, consistent fashion before events happen. So a little bit of a nerdy response to a fun question about fantasy football. But the reality is you're so right. Like we can apply this to fantasy football. We can apply this to fantasy hockey, or we can apply this to a predictive model to figure out where our next customer is going to come from. The choice is yours, but we're really able to do that.
And Nick, on that topic, another one that came in here is, is there a size of business that this really makes sense in, or does it fit for any customer set?
It's a great question, and this is one of my favorite. Questions. Our very first customer had 2 employees, and it was a barbershop that was looking to figure out who their ideal customer was because they had a really hard time getting people to come back for another haircut. So the way that I look at it is no, there's absolutely no organization too small. And if you look at what Google's doing with quantum computing and all their algorithm, I'm sure many of you that manage ad campaigns for your Google accounts have been very, very attentive to some of the algorithm changes that Google's driving right now. But there is no business too small, no business too big that can take advantage. The thing that I think really resonates with me is what is the impact and what is the importance to that business to use data to help their organization, right? And if you think about that concept of eliminating uncertainty, to me, that really breaks down into 2 things. That breaks down into generating more revenue or increasing efficiency to lead to greater profitability. And if we do this really, really well, we do both of those things. We grow the organization and we increase profitability. And again, 2020 is just put a magnifying glass on how important that is for us to be successful.
Nick, thank you very much. All right, Rich, back over to you, buddy. Sorry for the delay.
No, that's great. And, I'm excited about the concepts of Storyboard on a larger scale too. I think that what I see as a regional solution manager for ACDI is we're constantly trying to find more effective, more efficient ways to help our customers deliver solutions and help those end users actually see the value. And data-driven analytics is really big. And that kind of segues me into my next thought, which is, of course, we would be a little bit remiss if we didn't have an add-on for our flagship product, PaperCut. And for those of you who out there who may be familiar with PaperCut, really the value behind PaperCut is security, accountability, cost recovery, and some accessibility in paper-based information or your path to digital. And so, as Nick mentioned, Storyboard transcends the application. It's not really about whether it's PaperCut or whether it's QuickBooks or whether it's HubSpot or whether it's really anything you bring to the table. But since this is already in our discussion, and this is a product that our resellers use quite a bit, there's about 85 reports in PaperCut, just to kind of make it known to you that there's a lot of data in there. And if you think about combing through lines of CSV data, PDF data, whatever it may be, to get those insights, those actionable pieces to the right people, it gets pretty daunting sometimes. And in my career, we've always tried to provide some level of consulting and way to help people understand where there's opportunity to be more efficient or a little bit more frugal or save some money or be more secure. And when this slide was put into the deck, it really resonated with me immediately, because if you look on the left, I don't think any of us are really impressed by being able to dig through spreadsheets all day. As I said, it's daunting, it's repetitious, and it's sometimes not right in your face as to what the answer is. But when we put things into color, graphical color, and we hear this in marketing messages, we hear this in just different taglines in television, marketing in color, communication in color resonates much better with people than black and white lines of code. So if you think about what Storyboard's bringing, it's a colorful, interactive interface for people to get these insights and tell their story more rapidly. And with PaperCut, it's no different. So I'm going to take us through a quick look of what Storyboard looks like for PaperCut, so that we can see exactly what we're dealing with on the backside here. So PaperCut in Storyboard is an interface that's customizable. The basic add-on for PaperCut is designed to cover some of the key findings within that data set. But some of the discussions we've had outside of just PaperCut is, what if I was to align PaperCut data with maybe machine data or financial data or service data. In the industry we're in, a lot of times those things also are important when we tell this holistic story, and it's possible. It's all possible. That's the beauty of Storyboard. Everything's a yes. So what we've done is try to break it up into some logical areas where people can summarize data and see really quickly what that total environment looks like, where the money's being spent and where the money's being saved, and certainly where the volume's coming from within the different functionalities of that machine-based environment. And as we filter through, things change and times change and different interactive filters. But the real power of PaperCut, just to give a little bit more buzz to that, is really the user side of it. And for those of you that are familiar or not familiar, I always say it's about people, paper, and process. And when you have a tool like PaperCut, certainly paper is a variable that we're always trying to track, whether it's for security purposes or whether it's for trying to drive some cost changes. We're always trying to understand how we can be better. So what we've done within this platform is identify outliers, users that actually drive that behavior. So those users are the people out there that actually need the paper or want to scan the paper or get rid of the paper and definitely spend the money. That equipment that sits in the office doesn't just sit there without a user utilizing it. So we identify those users quickly, and then we understand exactly what those users are doing with their printing, scanning, faxing, copying behavior, even what departments they live in. And when you think about it from just a cost perspective, you can find the people that might be impacting the need the greatest in the environment. But, I also like to look at it another way where I say, cost savings are a big part of the story. But I've been in some conversations recently where people ask me, why do we print so many emails? Now, this isn't about emails in color, and certainly that's a cost we can talk about too. But we're talking about security now, where we have people that are printing digital files off onto paper. What would be the process that supports that? And we've had companies go from hospitals to financial firms. Hospitals print out emails sometimes because they need to get the records into their EMR systems. Financial places print it out because they need to get it into the mortgage processing process. All kinds of things break down when it comes to multiple systems, processes, and paper tends to always be the key to moving that information around. So very quickly, we can determine who our power users are in printing email, and we can go address that. Maybe it is a broken process. Maybe it's something we need to invest in. Maybe it's a security problem. Who knows? But this type of data, if you can kind of follow me in the story, is very impactful for a lot of reasons, but very quickly accessible. And we can go through the machines, and we can even go through the environment in the same way. So people talk about hard dollar savings quite a bit. We like to talk about environmental impact too. Certainly paper affects us more than just in the wallet and just in security. So our focus for this particular add-on was to be able to help someone understand the value of PaperCut as a product beyond just the built-in reporting. Show them in color and quickly how we can make things better, more efficient, and understand the value of that product beyond what the base configuration is. So moving back into slides here real quick.
Rich, while you do that, we had 4 people drop off because they said they were not Minnesota Viking fans. And they didn't go with the purple and gold. Is there a way to change that interface around so they don't have to look at that, especially the friends from Wisconsin on the phone right now?
Absolutely. I am also not a Minnesota Vikings fan. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I'll be pushing for black and gold here very soon. But yes, everything is customizable in Storyboard. And the reason I kind of like showing that brief little demo for the PaperCut add-on is that was all designed in-house specifically for that usage and that scheme, but that's all flexible. Even the tabs and the data. As Nick said, it's really based on the business and the use case or the application. One of the things that we hear quite a bit is we'd like better reporting out of HubSpot or QuickBooks or SAP or whatever the other applications are. And this product allows us not only to do that, but also allows us to customize it so it matches what you'd like to see on a daily basis. Good question. Mark, you done pulling my chain on the Vikings, or shall I continue on the Q&A?
I got another one for you.
All right, hit me. Hit me.
Gally, you're talking about PaperCut and specifically with K through 12 and higher ed. You know, how are some examples, team, do we think that this can benefit the education sector?
You know, that's a good one. And this is a really, to my heart, tells the story the best that I've heard in a little bit. So I'm going to hop back in here real quick if I can. And one of the resellers that we work with early on brought this use case to the table, and it was a K through 12 district. And in that district, they were tracking obviously paper usage and all that with PaperCut, but they also were tracking support, service, SLA, you know, those types of things through other software platforms like FM Audit and eAutomate and so on. And so those data sets were already known. And then the school proposed one other question to the group, which was, could we see our school's academic standardized performance against this data? And really without understanding initially where we were going with that story, it was brought forward and that data set was combined with other data that was already out there. And according to this story from our reseller, what happened was immediately they were able to understand the lowest performing schools in the district were consuming the most paper. And unpacking that a little bit further, those schools were also not fully adopting one-to-one Chromebooks. So if I'm a salesperson, which I am, but I'm also a technical person, what I hear immediately for me is, so you're spending a lot of money on paper in these bottom 3 schools. They're not performing. That dollar figure is X. You realize that your better performing schools are on one-to-one Chromebook initiative and they're printing less. And your schools that are not performing less, you need to still go one-to-one. What would be the impact if I could reduce this dollar spend in paper and help you shift over to Chromebooks? And certainly these types of discussions all the time happen. Sometimes it's around electronic faxing. Sometimes it's around just HR onboarding. It's just finding where the money or the process may be broken or could be improved, and seeing it right in front of you immediately. And therefore, that school district's more aware than ever that we really shouldn't be wasting time without extra Chromebooks in these lower performing schools because it's driving cost somewhere else. And here's the numbers to show that. So that's a great question out there, Mark.
Absolutely. And Belinda, I completely agree. Green Bay forever. So we'll just leave it at that. Rich, keep going.
All right. Perfect. So you've seen a little bit of the interactive interface, and we're pretty proud of how that lays out with other products besides PaperCut. But a lot of us struggle, users who buy products and people who resell products. And sometimes it's just, how can I get more out of my investment? Or how can I make it work better for me now? We bought this thing 5 years ago, and I just don't know if it's growing with me. I can't get to the information I want fast enough. And all of these conversations really start to lend very well to Storyboard as well. Storyboard actually hops in and lets you add features and or data interfaces to existing platforms that, may not have updated that report. They may not have done that extra work to get you that piece of information you were looking for. So really, it helps invigorate products that have already been adopted with new life. And that's also an ongoing value of it. So we're pretty excited to have this on the table today as a product, and looking forward to where it goes within the industry, because I think it really opens a lot of conversations, as Nick said. Mark, do we have any more questions out there?
Yeah, I think one of the questions came up, Rich, with regards to tracking analytical data from hosted or from on-premise applications. Nick, what's your thoughts on that? Where do you see us being able to track data?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we're actually on a slide in just a minute here. I'm gonna actually perfect. Yeah, it is our next slide. So here's the beauty of Storyboard: is Storyboard acts as your outsourced chief data officer. And if you look at these 4 big pillars below: data pipelining, data warehousing, analysis, and data visualization, the team and the technology comes together to be able to handle that. So the shorter answer is absolutely, both on-prem and cloud-hosted solutions. We've developed over 200 integrations at this point and counting. On average, we add 1 to 2 per month. So we definitely have a really aggressive development pipeline for getting different types of technologies built. Things like SQL and QuickBooks and HubSpot and Salesforce and Zendesk and Oracle NetSuite, and you name it. So really, really great opportunity there. The second component of that is this concept of modern data architecture. Most of us were around when you had a SQL server in a server room and that environment was built on a specific spec of hardware, and you were kind of gridlocked to that size of hardware that you had. And you had to make a decision. Do we buy just enough hardware to be able to handle what we have today? Or do we invest in a little bit of infrastructure and hopefully grow our way into it? And if we think about that 18-month rule of hardware, compute power, and storage kind of deprecates in half every 18 months, it's kind of a big pill to swallow when we're investing $30,000 to $100,000 in on-prem hardware that's probably not going to be as relevant 18 to 24 months from now. So the beauty of Storyboard is, because it's built on modern cloud-based data infrastructure, it's infinitely scalable. Storage is infinitely scalable, and it really allows you to bring all of your data into one place. That third thing, data analysis, is something that I'm near and dear to my heart. Ever since my predictive modeling football days, we have developed a team of data analysts and data scientists. So you actually get somebody handcuffed to you to help you solve your biggest problems. And I'm probably going to regret Josh might get mad at me for throwing this out there, but I challenge everybody today to think about your biggest problem that you think you can solve for your business using data. What's the problem from your vantage point? What have you tried to do to solve that problem that hasn't worked? And then how do you think data can help you solve that problem, and bring that to us? Throw it over the fence and let us figure it out for you. Let us work with you to figure it out. Because our team of analysts and scientists are going to be able to help you reverse engineer what data we need, to what level of grain, so that we can actually run predictive models, machine learning, a little bit of AI in there as well, like things that you can do to actually figure out these problems. And then last but not least, as Rich showed earlier, the data visualization component, being able to change colors, being able to completely customize dashboards. The world really is your oyster. And the last thing I'll dive into on this slide, it's completely modular. So if there's certain parts of this stack that you're like, hey, we absolutely love that, but we have our own data science team, we just need the infrastructure at the right price. We have the ability to mix and move these Lego blocks as needed, so that we can solve exactly what you're looking to solve. So the next slide is one of my favorites. This all sounds good and fun. Oh, how does it work? There we go. Perfect. So this is a really great visual that shows all of these different systems, right? And these are just some example systems. How we extract all of that data through an ELT process, which stands for extract, load, and then transform, which is a really modern way of being able to pull data out. From there, it gets dropped into your dedicated centralized data warehouse. So for those of us on the phone that have been thinking about building a data warehouse, call us first. We've done, over 100 of these at this point. But we have the opportunity to help guide you through that process and really make sure that things are set up from the beginning properly. For those of you that already have databases and data warehouses, and you are dealing with on-prem hardware that you're getting a little nervous that it's just not as sturdy as it needs to be, call us. We can help you figure that out, migrate it into a cloud-based application, and really make it sturdy and scalable for you. And then last but not least, after it comes out of the data warehouse and gets analyzed, turning those into those completely custom data visualizations for you and your customers. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about data security for just a second. When we're dealing with big data, there's a lot of things that can go right. There's also a lot of things that can go wrong. All of our technologies are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, which really is the gold standard for software as a service. We are HIPAA compliant. And then last but not least, we adhere to those absolute highest guidelines of internal security to make sure that passwords are secure, handoffs are really secure, and that PHI isn't shared with us if it doesn't need to be, so that we can make sure that your data is super secure. So my second challenge to everybody that I haven't thrown out there yet, and Mark might kill me for this one, is anybody that can throw a question in the Q&A to stump Mark gets a prize today. So Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you at this point to bring us home.
Absolutely, Nick. Thank you very much. And if it's about Greek food, you'll probably get me right away. But I do love olives. So let's, in my bourbon especially. One of the questions that came out, Rich, go ahead and build that first chart for me if you don't mind. A lot of what we're talking about today is Storyboard as a product. And one of the offerings that we have is Storyboard specifically for PaperCut. Our many years of service of supporting this product and working specifically with the development teams, it's really an honor for us as ACDI to be able to develop this product and bring it to market with you guys. As Josh said early on, it's something that we started many, many years ago, right? We've been on the forefront of analytics for the last 2-3 years and looking at how we can bring this forth to our partners and for you guys, and listening to you about what you were seeing in the field with PaperCut, what you needed from an analytics standpoint, and then bringing it into the product today. So, one of the questions that came up specifically is, all right, we're talking about PaperCut. Is this on-prem or is this cloud? And what I will say to you is that, what we're talking about today is for PaperCut on-premise and for PaperCut in a private cloud environment, whether that's ACDI's managed cloud services that we have been talking to you guys about for the last few months. In your own private cloud, we can help you run with that. Now, when PaperCut comes out with their own versions of their public cloud products, then Storyboard will be unique for that as well, right? There's different metrics that PaperCut itself is going to come out with, and we will just parlay Storyboard on top of that from a public cloud standpoint. The technology won't matter to us, right? As Nick mentioned, the security's there. We're able to connect to on-prem cloud applications, ease of use really quickly, right? It's just going to come down to what your customer's looking for. and what kind of analytics can we work with you to tell that story. And I think that's kind of where this leads us to is, the product we have today, Storyboard for PaperCut, is just the beginning. We have multiple connectors, as Nick referenced before, over 100 some connectors right now. Let us build that story for you, right? Let us help you write that biography for your dealership or for your customer, for them to get the analytics that they need. PaperCut analytics along with your fleet management data coming from your MPS utilities, from our own, such as Kpis, right? Being able to pull that data together and tell that true printing story is what we want to look at. But it does go beyond printing. And we're not naive to think of that, right? There's a lot of other data, whether you're working with scanning applications, whether you're working with other types of automation tools, workflow automation, back-end accounting software packages. Storyboard's not limited. And the beauty of this is when you can get a customer and you can add 6, 8, 10 different connectors into a single dashboard, that's the power, right? That's the power to show them everything that's going on within their particular environment. So, we're happy to launch this and to be here with you guys hand in hand. If you saw our cloud presentation a couple of weeks ago, we always talk about meeting our partners where you are. So let us join that journey together and see where Storyboard can take you and continue to write that story. So with that, we want to say thanks for coming, but we do have some other questions that are out there talking about compliancies. Whether it's going to be compliant with things like Nick mentioned HIPAA before, we are, and then GDPR, correct. We know that in today's environment we have to meet all of those requirements. So yes, GDPR is definitely near and dear to us as well. So we're not storing any of that information, and we can extract any of that to meet the compliancy of GDPR as well. So what else, guys? You guys seen any more? Oh, here's another good question that just came in from the galley. Hey, talking about drinking our own Kool-Aid. How does ACDI use this? How do we see Storyboard helping us as a solutions and services organization? And I feel like none other than Mr. Josh Lane. Will you take that one for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an important question, and probably everyone on the panel can answer, especially Rich. But for us, all the technology that we've invested in, the systems, our CRM, our ticket book, the accounting package that we use, all of that were in disparate data sources. And what we wanted to do is be able to compile it into one and figure out what value that we could glean from it. And so internally, we've tied in 3 or 4 different data sources so we can see it in one dashboard. And then we can also tie in correlation. One thing that we've learned and kind of we can confirm is that happy customers buy more stuff. Happy customers also pay on time, or tend to anyway. And so those different things for us meant a lot. And then we wanted to examine the health score or the health of our customers. But in order to do that, we had to define what healthy looked like. And so we could do that through analytics. We could do that through metrics. Then we wanted to say, what value could we apply to a QBR, combining tickets, accounting, and sales? Are they engaged? Are they disengaged? Can we approach them prior to maybe an at-risk customer leaving and convert them back to our way of doing business, which, as I mentioned, is all about being customer-centric. So the value in the data is there. One of the things that over the last 3 years that we've kind of really looked into it is the fear of getting into an information loop that you never get out of. And so what our team is tasked to do is be an accountability partner, that when you and your clients start digging into data, that we're driving the outcomes that they truly desire, not just looking for cool features and facts that don't lead to smarter business decisions, but looking for true insights that can change the business, save the business money, create additional room for upselling, create longer or increased retention rates. All the things that I think that our businesses rely on, we hope to bring to life. And I wasn't joking about, looking at your business in a new way every day. And, our insights may be different than yours. And that's the exciting part, is we can all put in together, what we want to see and then deliver that value throughout the channel. So thanks for asking that question, Mark.
It's a great question, and it kind of goes into the next slide, really. You know, what we expect as takeaways for you guys, and there's so much you can look at when you start looking at analytics. It means one thing to me versus Nick versus Rich versus Josh. And so, you know, we hope that in the end it's able to improve your customer satisfaction and your referral network, right? And those are some of the things that, you know, you guys are always looking to try to set yourselves apart from the competition, and being able to come in with a consultative approach of having an analytics tool behind you, no matter what verticals you call on, is something that we feel is going to be very, very important for you all. You know, looking at the lifetime value to the customer, you know, do they truly know what's going on, not just in prints, right, but everything within output in their particular environment. And we feel like we can help you tell that story to them. Sit down, as Rich said earlier, you know, we joke it's live and in living color, but it is. You know, PaperCut itself as a tool and a utility is amazing. We wouldn't know the who, what, when, where, why, and how of printing without it. With the reports, they're built in, they're there, but there's so much more that we can tell with those reports. And let us help you look at those analytics and show you what they mean for your customers, which will, you know, in the end, help with higher customer retentions, right? As you get beyond Storyboard for PaperCut and you start looking at just Storyboard for your dealership, just as Josh mentioned, you know, Storyboard for ACDI, what it means to us, we feel like you can start analyzing your data, your sales data. You know, which customers do we really need to go after? How come we've only got, you know, 7% of our business is in healthcare, right? Maybe it's one of the top fastest growing verticals that's out there right now, right? How can we help you look at that data within your particular market to say, hey, here you benchmark against the rest of the ACDI population, what can we help you with, right? How can we show you ways to enter into new verticals? And then, you know, talking about the efficiencies always leads to higher profitability, but sometimes it's just those efficiencies. You know, I read a note today that says, are you the one that always creates the to-do list? You know, do you get overwhelmed with that, right? Let's get beyond creating that to-do list every day, and let's have things automated for you, right? Using analytics to help you create new efficiencies within your particular business. So we're excited about the product, as you can tell. We're ready to start working with you and seeing where we can go with this. And so here's a couple of questions that let me jump into that are coming in through the chat right now. One is, can new dashboards be created within Storyboard? Nick, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. My vision is that at our next dealer summit that we're giving out an award for best and most creative dashboard created. So 100% they can.
Yeah. And you know, to lead with that, we created a basis of what Storyboard for PaperCut is, but that's the great thing about it. Use it as a professional services engagement. Sit down with your customers. If they need new dashboards, that's what we're here for, right? We've got our data scientist on Nick's team that'll sit down with you, create the dashboards that you need, put it in the green and gold colors that we like with Green Bay, you know, instead of the Minnesota Vikings, whatever it may be. We're here to take that product and help you customize that for your customer's experience. It's a starting point. It's a place for you to go talk about it, go sell it as is. It is it will be sold in bundles that you can add along with PaperCut. And then we'll look from professional services on how to grow it from there. Let's see here. How do we get a list of the available connectors? Rich, as an RSM, what are you guys doing in the field to help with this?
That's a great question, Mark. I kind of flip it around because I'm that sales guy out there that wants to make sure we fully understand what we're doing and we're involved or engaged. So what I always tell people is, why don't we work on what the need is versus spewing out all the things that we can connect to? Because at the end of the day, I could tell you 100 plus connectors, but you don't have any of those needs or you have one of those needs. So it's not connected to just one thing, as we know from this conversation. Storyboard transcends anything that's out there that has data in it. So if you want to connect SQL, if you want to connect a CSV file, if you want to connect something through an API, those are all options. So I don't want to limit ourselves. But as Nick mentioned and as Mark mentioned, there's about 200 plus that we have out there on the books right now. So bring your use case forward. Let's talk about it, and then we can determine what the right strategy is to move forward.
Rich, that's a good point. And there was another question that came in there is, what's the process if you want Storyboard for a particular application, and maybe it's for your own homegrown solutions that you've created in your dealership. Engage us. We have a full development team behind this, ready to go to work on creating new integrations for Storyboard. So just get us involved and let's look at it. Right? The more connectors you can add into a particular dashboard, the better the data is going to be. And so we're always looking for new ways to incorporate all the data that we can for a particular customer. Another question came up about NFRs for Storyboard. Yes. So as this is kind of the launch today, you're going to see more and more go on our website over the next couple of days. And I always recommend just get with your RSM and the team that you have supporting you from ACDI. They will be more than glad to work with you and your customers on setting up NFRs. We got a great group of solution architects led by Chris Robertson, and those guys know this product inside and out. So we'll be more than glad to help you set up demos. One of the things that with Storyboard is it is with version 20.0 and forward. It gives us a great opportunity to go update some of our customers, right? Getting them up to the latest and greatest versions. But that was the beauty of working with the PaperCut development team and getting all the new features for the analytics into the product. So it is version 20.0 and above, and we can help you with that for sure.
Hey, Mark.
Yes,
real
sir.
Quick, I had a question proposed to me, and it came across as if, because we want PaperCut or we want Storyboard for PaperCut to be installed on every license that's going out the door and on the thousands of licenses that we sold previously, how quickly can we install it? And I know the answer, but I'd like to hear it from you so PSD doesn't call me out for it.
No, that's okay. Josh, we know you're part of the sales team. What's great about it is our fleet of engineers that we have down there. This is something that we can have Storyboard installed and going within minutes. On a PaperCut install. And we've started doing that on a lot of the trials right now. As far as the data into the actual database, what we're saying is give us about 24 hours after the first install to start populating the data that's there now. And you'll see that the data within the system. So we're taking about 24 hours to get everything up and running, pulling all the analytics in from PaperCut. So it's actually quite seamless to do. Kudos to the development team for all the work that they did to make it easy within PaperCut.
And to kind of tag into that answer there, Mark, just from my experience with selling PaperCut, even when you install PaperCut as a product, it takes it about 24 hours to start to build some of those trend lines in the front of the product for any of us that have used it. So similar to that experience, we're going to be building a trend line based on the data we're receiving. So that's kind of why we put it into that bucket. But we want it to be good, clean, and accurate when you get it. But minutes to get it installed and up and running is a good point of reference right there.
Great. And our marketing team is Johnny on the spot, as they always are. So, one of the questions about the connectors, we just put a link into the chat window that does have a list of our connectors. Again, go back to our website, acd-inc.com. And you'll see a lot more information on Storyboard. All right, we got a couple more minutes. Thank you all very much for hanging out. Everybody's kind of stayed on board except for a few of those non-Viking fans left early. But what other questions do you guys have?
I saw one in here, Mark, about healthcare and EHR systems. I'd like to know a little bit more because I think that's a pretty expansive question on, and if I can go back up to it, how will this integrate with EHR for hospital management? So the first question is what is the EHR system that they're using? We've got a number that we've already integrated with, but as everybody knows, the EHR space is very, very saturated. So that would be my first question. But this is actually a really great use case, and there's a number of facets to it. So one of the ones that we see a lot is medical billing and predictive modeling when we're going to get paid by what carrier, and then how much for the levels of care or levels of service. So that's a really great integration there into the EHR. And then the second one is simulation modeling, right? A lot of hospitals, and great example is ventilators. A lot of hospitals have to figure out what that number of ventilators that they need is to be able to keep up with patient demand. And they've got to make a decision. Do we get just enough ventilators, or do we get enough for every possible use case that could ever happen? So that's another great example of how we can actually use simulation modeling to help a hospital figure out, based on the number of patients that they have with specific symptoms, that they're going to need a certain outcome, whether it's IV bags, ventilators, masks, you name it. So yeah, hospital playground is very, very expansive. And I would say let's definitely connect one off about that. And then I did see, because I'm on a roll now, I did see one other one about the access model. Is it authenticated, unauthenticated, or both? And then how's pricing? Is it related to the type of access? And can we actually tie this into our own Active Directory or single sign-on application? It's a pretty broad answer, but the answer is yes, all of the above. The way that it's right now, it is a standalone application. In order for us to be able to connect into your SSO tool or AD, we would have to set you up with your own dedicated environment. So there is a bit of a price bump there. But that being said, I would say let's definitely connect about what is the use case. Are we just looking to use the paper-cut add-on, or is there actual a really broad custom opportunity there? And I think that when you weigh what that cost would be if you were gonna go your own road versus what Storyboard's going to be able to do it for, it's probably going to net out to a pretty similar cost structure if we wanted to integrate with your SSO. Do you want to take this back, Mark, or do you want me to keep rolling with it?
No, I think it's good. Do we see any more questions? If not,
I do see one more. Are you deploying this as a cloud service, or would a customer install it on their site? Great question. This is deployed as a fully managed hosted cloud service. Obviously, customers with data on-prem should not be concerned, because we can set up the connectors and integrations needed to be able to get it over the fence to our application. But it is a cloud-hosted solution, not on-prem. All right, I'm done. I'm going to stop talking.
No, we like your talking. Very good. We can actually understand you. Good. All right. Well, everyone, thank you very much for attending today. As I mentioned earlier, this session has been recorded, so our marketing team will get it out on the website. Please feel free to contact any of us with any questions that you have. Get with your HCDI team, do some internal demos, get some NFRs set up, and let's go start talking about this story to everyone right now. So thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you soon.